Morning, Edith. That is needed because this weekend was another absolutely huge weekend, a big banger. Round number 2 of the GXCC series for 2018, the classic race venue of Fockville. One of my favorite places to go racing. It's got some of the highest speeds on the tracks that we race around the country. Nice, easy, good flow, but still challenging. Just to give you guys an idea of how gnarly it really is, the top bikes were able to do a 50k loop. These are the guys running the 450s or the 500s. A 50-kilometer loop, lap number 1 in clear air, just under 37 minutes. That goes to show you how gnarly it is. After that, you get into the lappers and the dust, but the track is super quick. This year though, some extra challenges, some of the braking bumps, because we have run a version of this track for the last 3 years now. This is the 3rd time we've run it. And it is getting a little bit chewed up and beat up. The quad guys said it really was gnarly on them. They were getting charged. Same thing from the bike guys. But let's talk about the numbers. Round number 1 of the GXCC series of Bronchies just 1 month ago gave us an absolutely huge record entry of just under 500 riders. The numbers are still good, just over 400 this time around, so we're always going to see a little bit of a drop off from round number 1 because everyone's so keen to go racing to round number 2. 400 riders plus, still nice numbers. Let's go through some of the categories. We did have good numbers in the 50s and the 65s. Little Johnny Luck walking away with the win in the 65s. I think it was Zach Johnson that walked away with the big win in the junior 85s. So he's starting to find his form and he's going to get more and more wins on the season as well. And the senior 85s gave us what's probably going to be one of the closest finishes of the 2018 season, even though we're only very much in the early stages of the year. You had Matty Wilson, who was the man to beat this season. You had J-Dog Cowley, and you had little Carl Branson. Now these guys were stretching out through the race, but when it came down to the finish line, 3 seconds separated first to third place, and they ran in that order with Wilson once again getting the big win. So that was the first win, and I will come back to that, the first win of the Whole Shot Husqvarna squad, because they had a real good day at the office. The rest of the categories and the breakdowns going out onto the big track then. In the quad side of things, Gideon Jacobs had a bit of a nightmare at round number 1 of the GXCCs. Some mechanical failures on his normally untouchable and really point perfect KTM running on the 421 colors. He grabbed Whole Shot, he grabbed clear air, and he ran. He was gone. Keenan was there with him in the early laps, but did start to fade off towards the end there as the track got more brutal. We know Gideon likes it when it gets tough and whooped out towards the end there. So good job for Gideon, getting himself back on point. And his wife-to-be as well, Marty Backfisher, got her first win of the season in the senior quad ladies. Gnarly Carly Berta, defending champion, and she got the number 1 at round number 1. She stalled on the line. It's one of the few mistakes that she's made in the last couple of seasons. And unfortunately, that stall really did cost her. There were only 5 ladies racing. She went off the gate in 5th place. She could only get herself up to number 2 spot because Marty was on fire. She needed that boost. She needed that clear air. She needed the whole shot, and she ran with it. So now the championship is going to be a wild one because they've gone 1 for 1 and 2 for 2. Means we head into round number 3 as a tiebreaker. And that's another theme of what this GXCC review at Hollywood Hills is all about. Almost every single category, barring I think one, which is the senior ladies motorbikes and the junior 85s, had a new winner from round 1 to round 2. So that's cool. It means the depth of talent in each field, in each category, is really deep, and it's going to be a challenging year. There's no sure bet as yet on who's going to walk away as champions. Going then on to the big bike categories into the senior ranks. Let's start off with the ladies. So Janke Pieterse had the win, but second place was a return to form, a return to racing for Tay Perry. Very cool to have her back. She was a stalwart of the GOC series. She was in and out of the championship in the first year of GXCCs, that was 2016. So it's good to see her bringing her pace, her speed and her skills to the GXCCs as they are now, because Janke Pieterse has been near on unchallenged for the last couple of seasons. So there's a new big threat hanging out there. Also, the ladies from Off-Road and Enduro did an incredible job. They gave us over 25 riding ladies in the senior bike lineup. So cheers to you guys and thanks. We really hope you can keep that up. Of course, it was International Women's Day yesterday, and hopefully they got spoiled rotten as all ladies are supposed to on days like that, and every other day as well. Into the men's categories, we'll start out with the kids that make the step up from the 85 seniors into the 125s. The 125 high school category is known this year. Very tricky to call. So far, we've had new winners and new names coming to the front. Lo Pretorius, the guy out of Vans Racing, caught everyone napping at round number 1, and it was up to Mr. 125 Ryan Peltzer, who got the 2 spot, and Robbie, Skinny Robbie, as we call him now, not as Robbie, riding under the auspices and training of Altus de Vet and Roost KTM. This time though, we used a bit of Robbie's form, so we knew he was going to come out swinging. He did. He got a nice run. Peltzer also had a bad start. He had a rough one. He had to do a big chase down from the back of the pack again. So I think he just got a little bit pressurized that time. So it was Robbie, then it was Peltzer. So those guys are back on point now, taking the win ahead of round number 1 winner Pretorius. So that's a nice big change up going on there, and that means the championship is just going to be an absolute nail biter from here on out, because we expect to see the consistency of Peltzer starting to come through by round number 3, but for his confidence, he will want to get that win. Up into the OR3s then, this was one of the big stories of the day, and there's new winners as we go along here, so we're going to bag and tag as we get up the ladder. So round number 1 winner was Flanny, the kid out of KZN, who was signed a purely National Enduro and GXCC. He's not competing in the National Off-Roads. So he puts a lot of pressure on himself to come and perform well at GXCCs. He did a killer ride to actually get 3rd place overall at the opening round of Bronkhorst and obviously win out in the OR3s. That's a 200cc category and old money for you and me. This time around though, he had a good jump off the line. Didn't get the whole shot. That was Stefan van Deventer, and he's really starting to find his feet as well. And it was him and Flanny, and it looked like it was Altus de Vet there as well for a while, and Darren McLeod. Darren coming off his first podium of the season just 1 month ago for the DNH Engineering squad. But this time around, 2 laps in with the big straights, and this has been a little bit of a kind of a niggly problem for the Yamaha guys over the last couple of seasons. When the straights get long on those 250s, the 4-strokes, they do have their issues. Unfortunately, Flanny had to retire his bike towards the end of lap number 2, and it was terminal. So that meant that Stefan van Deventer was flying high out front, and he had no one to play with. So he walks away and gets his first true victory of the season under his belt. He's going to be happy with that one, and he also needed that confidence boost. So Flanny round 1, Van Deventer round 2. Altus de Vet, who was pretty much just goofing around, managed to bring home a 2nd place on Robbie's spare machine, and 3rd place was from the Clan McLeod and DNH Engineering, Darren McLeod. So Darren looking good on overalls as well. That'll move him up into 2nd place on the championship. Van Deventer leads into round number 3. Up into the OR2s then. Now OR2s at round number 1 was an interesting and kind of a sad situation with Brett Swanepoel, the Pepsi Plastics, Factory Husqvarna in the Liqui Moly colours, going down hard on lap number 1. Not just that though, he had Taki Bodgiargis and Travis Gierig look after him on the side of the track. So all those 3 big pinners and massive championship threats were no scores coming out of round number 1. So we saw new winners, we saw JJ Daisel, we saw Jason Fenter, guys really pulling good results at round number 1. But apart from Brett Swanepoel, who's obviously still out from injury, but on the mend, we had a full gate this time around, and Taki Bodgiargis has to be the big bet. He pulled a number, he pulled a whole shot, and he took the 222 in the Pepsi Plastics Liqui Moly Factory Husqvarna colours to his and their first OR2 victory this time out. JJ Daisel, not too far off point though, and he did a solid job to get himself up into 2nd place. So he will still lead the championship going into round number 3. But Taki is back on point, back on pin, and absolutely flying. Nice to see Feyenoord Delport as well. So he's been lining up in the OR2s for a couple of seasons now, but on a down on power YZ250 2-stroke. He got picked up just a month ago by Trax KTM. He's on 350, and he is close to getting himself onto the box. And I expect to see him challenging for 1st, possibly 2nd places early on, but towards the end of the season, 1st places. But Taki gets his 1st win of the season as well. He'll be happy with that one, certainly of the GXCCs. Moving then up into the Big Bangers. Big Bangers was a huge story as well. Obviously, D'Artagnan Lobjoy, defending champion from last season in the overalls as well as the OR1 category. Kenny came out swinging, banging hard. The big guy, King Kenny of the Factory Liqui Moly Pepsi Plastics Husqvarna squad. I have to say that quite a lot nowadays. He had a flag to flag. He had another flag to flag this time around. But he had a lot of company, and they were absolutely pinning. Obviously, JC Nienaber came out strong at round number 1. He came out strong at round number 2 as well. He was right there with Kenny, and those guys were doing a good job on lap number 1, but they were on a 5-lapper format. D'Artagnan Lobjoy definitely did his homework between rounds 1 and 2, because he came out very, very aggressive on the Peak Performance Botswana Racing Yamaha, and yeah, his pay is definitely paying off. It was a very, very fast lap, which meant the guys were chewing up petrol, especially on the high revving 350s and 450s. But Kenny had a long-range tank, JC had a long-range tank, D'Artagnan did not have a long-range tank, meaning that every time he came in at the end of his lap, he had to go for a splash and dash. That's dark, by the way. JC and Kenny were able to run 2-lapper formats before they had to do a refuel. So that changed things up, and we saw something like 3 changes of position for second place between JC and Dart in the pits alone. Then, going out onto the last lap, just 20, maybe 25 Ks into the last lap, Kenny's bike just let go. For no real reason. It said it wasn't really a mechanical failure. It felt more electrical. Something had rattled itself loose, and he just couldn't get the thing going. So, unfortunately, he had just over a minute lead over JC and Dart onto lap number 5. And yeah, he just had to take a DNF. It's not a DNF. He will get scored on his laps scoring for 4 laps. I think he scored, by the way, something like a 10th or 11th coming out of the OR1 category. So in the championship, but he's definitely going to have some good luck. The other guys are going to have some bad luck. So it was JC Nienaber on the Whole Shot Racing factory Husqvarna that got his first official win of the season. So Kenny took round 1, JC took round 2. Dart got his number 2 spot. He'll be happy with that. Third place was a great ride coming out of Ruan Potgieter. So it kind of flies below the radar sometimes, does Ruan. And then 4th place finish for Lo Schmidt. And he just missed out on the podium as well. He's coming back from his early season injuries to I think it was a broken ligament in his foot after dropping something heavy on it. He's starting to get himself back on pace, starting to get his confidence. And if you run good at Fockville, you generally run good almost everywhere else. So Lowe is back on point, and he got a 4th place finish, just missing out on the podium by about 3 places. In the age group categories, Bruce Viljoen just got his medical clearance in time to come racing for the GXCCs after he had his head-on collision last weekend at Ashawi for the opening round of the National Off-Roads. He was a no-score there. He was just in it to try and bag some points. Remember, he is round number 1 winner. So he needed to get some points on the plate. He did a good job. He was up there chasing up and down, kind of 1st to 5th. Then he was running around about 3rd or 4th. Eventually crossed the line in 3rd place, so he should be able to maintain his championship points lead. The rest of the guys coming out and taking the numbers, though, it was the Proudly Bidvest rider from KZN, Bruce May, who missed round number 1, came in and cleaned house at round number 2, fully fit and had a real good ride. So that's going to change things up in the championship, but Brucey, Viljoen that is, should still be championship points leader. But good job for Bruce May, and congratulations to him and his wife on their expecting their first baby. So that's very cool to celebrate a little bit later on in the year. In the big banger old man category, the Masters, there's always going to be 2 guys to talk about in the GXCCs, and that is Insane Wayne Farmer on the Bico Warehouse Fly Michelin Husqvarna 300 2-stroker, and the absolute beast of a rider, Peter Hall, on the Bert Smith Racing KTM 500 4-stroker. Now, Peter Hall is coming off his first national win of the 2018 season just 1 week ago down at Ashawi. Wayne had to take a number 2 spot. Unfortunately, Wayne had to take a number 2 spot here again. Those guys were closing in all over each other. It looked like Wayne did all the early work, and then Peter Hall pulled an absolute huge lap out of the final lap. Came charging past Wayne, and unfortunately Wayne had no answer. So that is going to be, again, the war to watch out for. Those guys will flip it out the whole way through the season. At the moment, they go into round number 3, tied on points for the Masters category, with Johan Gray in 3rd place, right there, should anyone make any real big mistakes. I know it's a big Hollywood Hills this time, so hang in there, guys. We're almost about to wrap it up. Just big stories, a lot of things to cover and talk about. And hopefully we are bagged and tagged absolutely everyone. I know I left the seniors and masters out last time around, so sorry to you guys. Hopefully I've got everyone on the page there. Good entries, good numbers, good vibe, good track. But I'm kind of glad I didn't ride this one, because it does sound like it has got much more beaten up over the years. And the guy said lap number 1, they were hitting the braking bumps they were hitting on lap number 5 from 1 year ago. So it means that that track is getting chewed up, and it's going to be a case of trying to find a different version of the Fockville track going forward into 2019. That's a long way down the road. So what's coming up next weekend? Well, next weekend it's the regional, round 2, regional motocross, MXSA. I'm not going to be there. I'm going to send Hollywood Coffee down there so we can keep the guys buzzing the whole way through the day. I'm going to be going to Dahlstrom for the first round of the SACCS. That's the off-road racing car championship. That's of course been split between the bikes and the cars now. Just the cars and buggies racing up at Dahlstrom, so I'll be heading up there. The week after that, and I hope you guys will join me for this one, because it's the second round of Farm Jam. Now, Farm Jam had 360 riders coming off the first event. We expect to see maybe a little bit of a drop-off, but hopefully there's a nice enough, big enough gap between all of the GXCCs and all the nationals that the guys can still make the trip up to just around the corner there, up in Middelburg, and join us for round number 2 of the Farm Jam. It's going to be around about a 35-40k loop, nice and easy, not too challenging. We are going to be running all of the junior categories, the quads, the two-wheelers, as well as the new adventure categories. If you guys want to roll out on a 660 Yamaha, a 690 KTM, or the big banger, the 1090s, 1290s, 1190s, all those guys were up there. And in that category, Ludwig Janse van Vuuren is the man to beat. So if you're lined up, watch out for him. He's going to have his elbows up and want to defend his win. We round out the month of March, always the mad month of March, at Mamarok Extreme Enduro, and that's just on the other side of Pretoria. But obviously we'll be reporting back on all these events as we go through the racing month of March. Thanks for hanging in there. We know it's been a super long Hollywood Hills this time around, but coming out the GXCCs, there's always just so many stories to talk about. The big theme of Hollywood Hills this time around, though, is almost every single category had a new winner, and that just shows us the GXCCs are the deepest talent pool across all of the categories and one of the best races to go and race with. They've got plenty more rounds to come. They've kind of separated their calendar almost every single month or a month plus a week, so it gives the guys just enough time to recover themselves. But for now, we're going to be signing off. We're going to say a big high five and thank you to Ryan Wilkins from Polysport. Those guys have got some incredible products. For me, it's the Ignition cover this week that I think is my favorite product. Anything down the bottom of the bike that you can get some protection going, it's definitely going to be helping you out. Then, of course, we're going to be talking about the guys that have helped us out. Really cool to have Beta on board. This is the second month that they're in with us here at Hollywood Hills. They've still got their clear out. They've got a lot of 2017, 2018 machines to get rid of. So go check those guys out. And of course, Gareth from Holeshot, the rapper, he is going to be buzzing because the Holeshot squad, Holeshot Husqvarna, walked away with 4 category wins at the GXCCs. So this guy is buzzing, and watch out because next week he's going to start throwing some specials at us here at Hollywood Hills to try and drive some traffic into the store down there at Holeshot, Husqvarna, and Holeshot down there in Boksburg on the K91 Center. For now, we're going to sign off. It's a big one. I hope you guys are hanging in there, and we'll chat to you a little bit later next week.